What is up? Welcome back to another reading of the Tao Te Ching with myself, Mark,
Adam,
and what number are we doing right now, Adam?
dos, two.
Number two. Number two. It's a good one. You know why? Because it comes right after number one.
Hey now.
All right, number two. I'm going to read from the translation from Jia Fu Feng in Jane English, and I have several other versions here. Adam has a couple of versions. We'll see if there's any differences worth mentioning, but it's a bit of a long one, so I'm going to read through this and we'll see where it takes us. So, number two from the Tao Te Ching. Under heaven, all can see beauty as beauty only because there is ugliness. All can know good as good only because there is evil. Therefore, having and not having arise together. Difficult and easy complement each other. Long and short contrast each other. High and low rest upon each other. Voice and sound harmonize each other. Front and back follow one another. Therefore, the sage goes about doing nothing, teaching no talking. The 10,000 things rise and fall without cease, creating yet not possessing, working yet not taking credit. Work is done, then forgotten. Therefore, it lasts forever.
Mm.
This one is definitely talking about duality,
Yeah.
and it's number two. So we're talking about the concept
Yeah.
of twos, which number one talked about the Tao as the one, right? The oneness. So number one was talking about the oneness, and now number two is talking about the two-ness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Coincidence? I don't
No, I
know.
don't think so. That feels very intentional.
Yeah. But kind of breaking it down in ways for the reader to understand. Okay, let's talk about the big picture first. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, talking about the Tao, the eternal Tao, all that
Mm-hmm.
is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
here's everything. Okay, now let's like dial it in a little bit. Okay, and the first concept from the one would come the two, the yin yang. The yin yang
Mm-hmm.
is duality encompassed within the one. It is the perfect symbol of that concept of duality starting to take shape, but still being contained in the oneness of all that is, and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily being totally broken apart in two separate things, yin or yang. It's yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
it definitely breaks it down, I think, in my opinion, about we only know beauty because of its opposite. We only know good because of its opposite. If the opposite didn't exist, we wouldn't necessarily know what the other thing was. So duality is kind of important in terms of seeing things a little bit more clearly, but remembering that they exist with each other, not against each other. They complement, I think that word was in here. Difficult and easy complement each other. Long and short
Mm-hmm.
contrast each other. So they're not using
Mm-hmm.
the words opposite. Voice and sound
Mm-hmm.
harmonize each other. High and low rest upon each other. So they're not using the
Mm-hmm.
word opposite here, which I think is very important.
Mm-hmm.
They're using the
I
complement, harmonize
I
to
agree.
work together, coexisting in
Yeah.
much more beautiful and accurate terms of how the universe really runs.
Yeah, it's more like kind of bring your attention to the fact that they're like, they're on a spectrum here, right? There's a polarity that as an axis itself, right? Or like a magnet. It's like there's not a north and a south. There's one magnet, but it has a north side and a south side, right? So like I think that yeah, it's bringing that, like you said, it's helping people with that idea of like duality and oneness as the same. I think one of the things that I find helpful is like Ursula Le Guin's translation. I won't read her translation, but she has like a little footnote, which is like her analysis of what she
Yeah,
sees.
yeah,
And I
please.
think it's really helpful because she says one of the things I read in this chapter is that values and beliefs are not only culturally constructed, but also part of the interplay of yin and yang, the great reversals that maintain the living balance of the world.
Yep.
To believe that our beliefs are permanent truths, which encompass reality, is a sad arrogance. To let go of that belief is to find true safety. Yeah, that kind of speaks to what you were just speaking of too about, you know, we can get locked in the either or kind of thing with duality. And this is really offering a way to think about this a little bit more expansively and more like dynamically. The dynamism of the Tao is one of the most important features, um, and what makes it such a living philosophy more than a static doctrine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a way of seeing the world as it works, as it exists.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the manifestations that happen, there we can call them phenomena, I guess.
Hmm.
They're the result of the interplay between these forces,
Yes.
these
Yes.
opposing forces in science. You can call it opposing forces or, action and reaction, things like that. We see it in masculine and feminine.
Yep.
Those are huge opposing forces, but very complementing. One cannot really exist without the other. And we're not
Sure
necessarily
can.
talking about male and female gender here. We're talking about the energies of the masculine versus the energies of the feminine. So the yin and the yang being masculine, active, right? A little bit more fire energy coming in from that in the realm of heaven and earth. We can relate that more to the sky, that the boundlessness of the sky and the
Yeah.
cosmos, whereas the earth is more like nurturing, inward, grounding, depths. That's that yin feminine energy. And
Yeah.
the sky and the earth cannot exist without each other.
No. And I mean, even the biology, like, I don't want, I'm not trying to make a claim on, getting into gender stuff, but I mean, it is a biological fact that a human requires a male seed and a female egg. It's not possible without these two.
There's a note here in the sub note here in my version that I thought would be interesting, talking about Nietzsche. And Nietzsche's famous Beyond Good and Evil echoes this doctrine. And the
Hmm.
crimes that have been committed under this banner are ample testimony to the need to understand it only in the context of a complete spiritual teaching. In Judaism and Islam, this idea often forms part of the esoteric path, reserved for those who have passed through the moral discipline and training of the exoteric or Orthodox tradition. Now, this seems
Mm.
to relate a lot to that number 18 that we explored, where
Yeah.
from order comes chaos, from chaos comes
Hmm.
order, one begets the other.
Hmm.
And we see these concepts kind of running their course sometimes,
Yep.
and there's a need for the other. Now, we can get trapped in swinging the pendulum sometimes, and we see this in the world of psychology. And where, oh, I was over here and now I have to be over here because that wasn't working for me. So let me explore this. Okay, maybe acutely, temporarily see what's going on over there, but you don't have to abandon that for this or this for that. Understand that, like you said, the word spectrum, there is a spectrum
Hmm.
that we're all existing on, and there's so much
Hmm.
to be explored within that spectrum that it's beautiful. It's amazing to ride that wave,
Hmm.
have that breadth and depth of an experience. The experience that we're meant to have is
Hmm.
wide, not narrow, right? It can be
Yes.
narrow at times. If you need to focus on something, it's the same thing with light. Light can be focused or floodlight. Depends on the
Hmm.
situation that you need it for. And
Hmm.
so we find all of these concepts always coming into our lives, whether it's for our health, for
Hmm.
our finances, our careers, our whatever, our families. All this concept of duality is so huge
Hmm.
because it's so simple, but often can be very misunderstood and misrepresented. So I just love how this number two kind of breaks it down in all these different ways to see it. I have a version here from David Hinton. Being and absence give birth to one another.
Hmm.
I like that. Like talking
Hmm.
about difficult and easy, long and short again.
Yeah.
Before and after follow one another.
Hmm. Yes, I love that.
It's also coming
Fun.
up at number 42, I believe, when we were talking about
Yes.
the yin is on the shoulders and cradling the yang,
I
right?
don't remember the imagery now, but yes, it definitely feels resonant with the 42 themes.
Where you have that yin and yang concept going on, but it's the yin on the shoulders and the yang cradling, like you're trying to
Yeah.
hold on to this.
Yin, your
Yang
yang,
wants to
and yeah.
like go, like you want to cradle it and caress it, but the yin is just kind of can often be left behind. So put it on your shoulders and help bring it forward.
Yeah.
So again, we see
Yes.
chapters connecting
Yes.
all the
And forgive my oversimplification, but I think that was what it was like. Gotta yang your yin and yin your yang. You know what I mean? Because yeah, that like you said, like this movement, like the flowing piece of this, right? The duality that instead of being locked, you're able to flow, that interplay, that constant flowing back and that movement and like you yeah in the last video you kind of showed that with your hands even right like how that's a practice within all the disciplines of the movement practices that emerged from Taoism or out of it. Duality is always a big theme with me because I'm named after the sort of Jewish mythology of the first man eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil,
Mm,
and how a lot of that kind of drove early humanity out of coherence with the divine, where they were not able to, at that time, really metabolize duality. Because it's sort of like, wait, what? I have to be good. And it kind of locks us in. And in fact, some of these structures and doctrines actually kind of lock people into that thinking even further. Well, this is a whole other tangent, but I don't think it's coincidence that tree of knowledge of good and life in that mythology is separated from the tree of life, right?
mm,
Because the tree of life is beyond good and evil, right? It's just this ever flowing dynamic process
yeah.
of, yeah,
Yeah. And that
all
relates to
this.
concepts of as above, so below. We got
Very much so.
the wood element speaks to that in the Chinese five element theory of growth and expansion of a tree going upwards towards the heavens, towards the sky, but rooting deep down into the earth, also while expanding out from the center. So it's creating this full five-dimensional Merkaba structure of expanding out in all directions.
Hmm.
But at the most basic, it's rooting and rising, right? You got
Hmm.
that duality, up and
Hmm.
down, heaven and
Hmm.
earth, and it still comes
Hmm.
back to those pieces of two.
The
Yang,
breath in and the breath out.
yeah, exactly. Breath in and breath out. One is very yin, one is very yang. Breath in is yang, breath out is yin, relaxing, invigorating. And this is how that yin yang symbol, which is actually called Tai Chi. So we know that art of Tai Chi, the healing art based on martial arts of Tai Chi, is actually referring to that yin yang symbol. It's called Tai Chi. And there's a loose translation that most people agree upon of supreme ultimate is what Tai Chi means in the English tongue. Supreme ultimate. I mean, that's a pretty crazy two-word interpretation of yin and yang, but it's like it's it, it's all things. It's what everything is. Because at the end of the day, they're not separate. They are one. They are the Tao. They are the one. And we see that in the chapter one, right before this one of
Hmm.
chapter two, breaking it down. And so I like how it's just going piecemeal. Like, okay, let's talk about two now. We're talking about
Yeah,
one, and one's a big concept.
it is.
And okay, let's bring it down to a little bit more human understanding of the two.
Yeah, and even like the way that this, to go back to two, right, where it's kind of grounded in like this concept of like when the work is done, you forget it, right? Like that goes against the grain of our culture, which
Not
is
taking
like,
credit,
hey,
right?
did you see what I just did? Oh my God, I'm gonna put it on my LinkedIn and tell all the world about all this shit and all this, and it's like, okay, now you're taking the oneness of you as a system within dynamic systems and making it separate
Yeah.
when we could just be seeing it as this gorgeous interplay, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of
Doing
takes
what needs to
away
be
the power
done
of it.
just to do it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we see this in what's called virtue signaling, right?
Yeah.
People doing things like you were saying in order to boast about it. And we've seen time and time again in this book that sage does not boast.
Yeah. And I don't think the sage doesn't boast. Like, personally, I don't think this is how I read it. I don't think Dallas is saying the sage doesn't boast in a way to be like, oh, look at the sage. He's better. Like, it's not even a value judgment. It's literally saying boasting does nothing. It doesn't add anything to the
Value.
equation. And in fact, what it does is it wastes energy reserves
Hmm.
that could be used towards the work
Yep.
and then towards the
Or
rest from
just
the
something
work.
else. Yeah. Yeah. If
Exactly. For
keep on
the
harping on this thing that you did,
then
you're
it doesn't.
taking time and energy away of something
Yeah.
else that needs to be done.
So it's not a value judgment that those who boast are bad. It's just like that's a waste of resources,
Yeah. Yeah, good
you
point.
know?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Sure. Because that can just play right into that same theory of,
it
oh, the
can
sage
if we're
doesn't
not
boast.
careful.
Oh, look how great I am as a, because
Well,
I'm a
I'm not
sage.
boasting. Yeah, a virtue arms race. Like we're just all trying to do our work and take some rest, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can do more work and more rest.
And then you'll never lose it too, right?
Yes, it
It's
sustains. It sustains. Yeah.
but David Hinton says without dwelling there, that's the one way you'll never lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10,000 things arise without beginnings there, abide without waiting there,
Yeah.
perfection without dwelling there.
Without to, and for some reason I'm thinking of like maybe a family systems dynamic that people can relate to, which is sometimes when people don't want to do a favor because it's like now I'm gonna hear about this favor for the rest of my life. Pardon my French. I gotta hear about this favor for the rest of my life. Hey, remember that time I took it to the airport, huh? Yes, you because you remind me every time. Like now
Let it
you've
go.
ruined it. You've ruined the good work. You.
Yeah. And that's pride, right?
It is. It
And
is
righteous and
a waste.
righteousness in the wrong ways. We explored righteousness emerging in times of crisis in number
Mm-hmm.
18, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes righteousness can go too far into the negative of self-righteousness. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and again, we're talking about doing things and taking credit for doing things is losing the
Yes.
essence of why you do things and going out of the flow with the Tao. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you abandon the Tao, you got that whole thing coming back up with number 18
Mm-hmm.
again, where things
Mm-hmm.
must arise as we abandon these concepts,
Mm-hmm.
where things arise to kind of balance it out.
Mm-hmm.
Balance.
Hmm.
Again and again and again. Balance, balance, balance.
Yeah.
Love to hear what you all have to say, unless you got anything to add, my friend.
Nope. Nope. But yeah, as Mark always does, I think at the end of the videos, please leave comments, please leave questions, please leave no, yes, whatever, because
You guys are crazy.
the ultimate goal is this is a living philosophy, and so it's good to know how people are responding to it and how they might be applying it or find it difficult to apply.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Also, please like and subscribe so you get alerts when new videos come out every week. And we hope you are enjoying this series and we are enjoying putting it together. We will continue to do it again and again. And until next time, have a beautiful day and keep on flowing.